there, Liz here, and we are at EMO's Creative Studio, where anything and everything you create is beautiful because you created it. And today we're going to still talk about a half square triangle. So you remember that we cut two pieces of fabric. In this case, I cut it 3 7/8 by width of fabric. And the reason for the 7/8 is the way I'm going to be making the half square triangle. So let me remove this, and you see I've got two squares right here, and these are again 3 7/8 square. So let me show you what I wrote out for you, so that for those of you that need to see written word, it's right there. So remember, in making this half square triangle, you need to add 7/8 of an inch to whatever your finished size square is going to be. For instance, the finished square will be 3 inches, and what I need to do is cut this at 3 7/8 inches. So here you go. So remember, you need to put two squares right sides together, and in this case I'm using a dark color and a light color, which is this one, and I'm going to be drawing a line from one corner to the next using my whatever my marking instrument is and my ruler. Then after that, I'm going to go ahead and put quilter's clips, because I personally don't like using pins because it distorts it for me. I know for some people they love pins, but I generally use quilter's clips, but that's here nor there. I've drawn my line down the center from point to point, and I have my quilter's clips on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch from this black line. I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam down one side, and then I'm going to turn my fabric around, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam line down this side of my black line. Once I'm done, it's going to look like this, and you can see the black line right here, and you can see the stitching. Let me show you the stitching on the darker side, because I'm using white thread or gray thread. It's right here. So either with your rotary cutter or a pair of scissors, and I'm going to use a pair of scissors, I'm going to cut down the center of this square using my fabric only scissors. And now I have two half square triangles. It's half a square that you have converted into triangles. Now what we're going to do is going to go over to the ironing board. I'm going to finger press this now. And what I'm doing is I'm finger pressing my seam allowance towards the dark side of the fabric. If I sew it, if I press it with the seam allowance to the lighter side, you will see a shadow of the seam allowance right there. Okay, we've got that done. Now, after that brief review, what is it that we can make with these cute little half square triangles? Well, we are going to make something called a pinwheel block. There you go. Let's see. To bring this down so you can see it. And I'm going to use 4 of these blocks. And let's see if I can do this without getting confused. Place my first one down like that. Place my second one like that. Place my third like this. Nope. Like this. And place my fourth in this manner. Do you see the pinwheel going around? What I'll do is I'll take this over to my sewing machine, and I will sew this part to this like this, and I'll sew this part to this part like this. And then once they're sewn together right here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, then I'm going to sew these 2 rows together. Why don't I show you? So what I'm doing here is I have a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and what I want to do is I want to make it easy for me to take this block to the sewing machine and not confuse my pieces. So here we go, we're making our pinwheel. And you see there you have your pinwheel, nice and ready to be sewn. Again, these two pieces first, then these two pieces. So instead of being confused when I'm sitting at my machine, I have my piece of paper, my board, that I can walk over to my machine with. As you can see, I've got my blocks right here on my piece of paper sitting next to my machine. I'm going to get ready to pin these together so that I can sew them. I've got my top row, and I've already cut off the dog ears or the points so that it's easier for me to line them up together. I'm going to be sewing 1/4 inch down this side of these two units, and I want to make sure that my seams are even. So I'm going to go ahead and nest my seams, because on this side my seam allowance is going in this direction, and on the back my seam allowance is going in the opposite direction, to the left. This one's to the right. So they can nest really nice and turn out really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and put my clip to hold this, and then I'm just going to make sure that they match as good as possible, or as well as possible. And I'm going to place it against my needle. My needle is in the down position, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch. Again, my sewing machine foot is a quilter's 1/4 inch, so you see that this edge is against this edge. So I'm going to go ahead and start my machine. I'm sewing slow so that I can show you how this is going to work. I get really close, and then I press down, pull it off, and I sew to the end. Now I'm going to chain piece my two pieces together, so I'm going to leave my unit right there, and then I'm going to take my other two pieces, and again I'm going to try to nest the seams so that they nest well. Put my quilter's clip, turn it, lift my presser foot. Doesn't look even. Okay, now it does. Slide it under and start my machine. You notice how I didn't cut my thread? I just placed my next unit to sew, and off I go. And now we'll take this off, we'll cut it, and as you can see I have two, working in a small area today. As you can see, I have my two units right here connected together with this thread, which I'm going to snip right now. And then I'm going to press open my two units that I did. I have seam allowance going to the left and seam allowance going to the right. Let me see, and there you go. You've got these two pieces together. And now I'm going to sew it across up here. Let me go ahead and go to the ironing board and press this open so that I have nice crisp seams. I have my 2 units clipped together with a quilter's clip, making sure that my seams are going to be nice and even over here. Now this seam is going to be very bulky, and it's probably going to get caught up in the foot and the dog feet underneath, so I'm going to use a stiletto that's going to help me push it. The stiletto can go underneath this part right here, and it won't jam up my needle, which is over here. Now if you don't have a stiletto, you can go ahead and use a chopstick or something that's pointy. Don't use your fingers, and please don't use your scissors. You could get yourself a nice chopstick to help you push it on your seam underneath the presser foot. So let's go ahead and start this machine and start sewing. As you can see, I'm not quite ready to use my stiletto, but I am going to stop my machine right before it hits the clip. I'm going to take the clip off, and you see how bulky it is right here? I'm going to hold it down with my stiletto. Remember, no fingers here, nothing that's going to get you caught underneath your presser foot. Help it go under, pull it through, and there we go. Now I can put my stiletto down. I'm just going to stop my machine to make sure my end piece is nice and straight, because I'm not using pins because this is a smaller project. Now let me tell you, if you're not comfortable doing it this way, go ahead and put a pin right around here and a pin at the top. Again, I don't like using pins because pins tend to distort my items, so I'll either use the quilter's clips, and again, you could put a quilter's clip here if you want. And you just continue sewing, making sure that these 2 pieces are even. I don't backstitch at the beginning, nor do I not backstitch at the end, because when I put my blocks together, the stitches will be locked in. Okay. And here they are nicely pressed. 2 units or 2 rows, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to match the seam right here, and I'm going to sew these 2 to make my pinwheel block. Let's go back to the machine. I'm going to go ahead and cut my little threads off over here and over here because I just don't like them dangling. That's just me personally. You can leave it so that leave them there, and you can get rid of them when you square up your block. So now, oops, here's another one. I am going to open up this block to show you what the pinwheel looks like, and I'm going to finger press it. I already can see that I'm going to have to square up my block because I've got this extra piece right here. But look, my half square triangles, 4 of them, have made a really cute pinwheel. I went ahead and took this over to the ironing board, and I pressed it so that all the seams lay nice and flat, and you can have a really pretty point right here. You see how it matches? Let me show you what it looks like on the back side. And I could press it a little bit better, but notice that there's this big bulk back here, and that's why I told you when we were sewing you need something to help it push through the feed dogs and under the presser foot. And I could see right here that I need to go ahead and score up my block. Using the half square triangles, I used 4, and I made this really cute pinwheel. I wanted to expand on my pinwheel, and I gave it a little border. This is a 1 1/2 inch strip. I put the 2 sides first, like this, and then I went ahead and measured whatever all these 3 pieces were, and I added the pieces here. You see what your half square triangle can make? A very cute pinwheel block. I'm Liz. We are at EMO's Creative Studio, where anything and everything you create is beautiful because you created it. subscribe, like, share on social media if you like. I am on social media, Facebook, Instagram. You'll find that information listed below in the description box. I also have an email address if you want to ask a question privately. That's also listed below in the description box. Until the next time, happy sewing, happy quilting.